carry me home. I looked overjoyed, and what did I see? Coming for to carry me home. Oh, friend of angels, coming after me, coming for to carry me home. Sweet home, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot. Coming for to carry me white blank. White blank page and a swelling rage. White blank.
Tonight, I want to talk about something bigger than Democrats, bigger than Republicans, bigger than elections, bigger than political parties. I want to talk about racism. I want to talk about equality. I want to talk about faith. I want to talk about where I come from. I want to talk about where I hope America goes. And I want to talk about why. Even at my age, I believe that young people have a responsibility to speak when something is wrong because I've learned something. You don't have to be old to recognize injustice. You don't have to hold a political office to have a voice. And you don't have to wait until you're an adult to care about the future of your country. My experience. White blank. I live in Georgia. This is my home. This is where I go to school. This is where I see my community every day. And I've experienced racism firsthand. I'm not saying that because I want sympathy. I'm saying that because racism isn't just something I read about in a history book. It's something I personally encountered. And when you experience something like that, it changes the way you look at the world. You start asking questions. Why would somebody judge another person based off of the color of their skin? Why would somebody think they're better than someone because of something that a person has never chose? Why would someone's race determine how they're treated? And eventually, you want to decide what you're going to do with those experiences. You can let them make you bitter, or you can let them make you determined to build something better. I choose the second one. My faith teaches me many things, and my faith is a huge part of how I look at this. The Bible says in Galatians chapter 3 verse 28, there is neither Jew nor Greek. The point isn't that our differences don't exist. The point is that those differences don't determine our worth before God. And James chapter 2 verse 9, sorry about that, warns about something about showing favoritism. That's something I think about when I think about racism, because racism at its core, a decision to treat somebody differently because of who they are. And I don't believe that's what my God calls us to do. Jesus said in Matthew chapter 22 verse 39, love thy neighbor as thyself. Notice that he doesn't say love your neighbor if they look like you. Love your neighbor if they vote like you. Love your neighbor if they come from the same background as you. He said, love your neighbor. That's a pretty powerful standard. And I want to make something extremely clear. Racism isn't exclusively a Republican problem. It isn't exclusively a Democratic problem. It isn't exclusively a conservative problem. It isn't exclusively a liberal problem. It is a human problem. If somebody in my own political party says something racist, I should be willing to call it out. If somebody on the other side says something racist, I should call that out too. If somebody I personally admire does something wrong, I should suddenly decide that wrong become I shouldn't suddenly decide that wrong becomes right just because I like them. That's not integrity. And if we're serious about fighting racism, we have to be consistent. Though history, we cannot forget. America has an incredibly complicated history with race. We have the history of slavery. We have the history of segregation. We have the history of the civil rights movement. We have people who stood up and demanded that America live to the promises written in its founding documents. And we have people who sacrificed tremendously for those principles. That's why I think about people like Dr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. He wasn't fighting simply for one political party. He was taking out he was talking about a moral question. What kind of country are we going to be? And that question still matters because every generation gets an opportunity to answer. I'm a part of a generation that's growing up in a completely different world. We have smartphones, we have social media, we can communicate with someone across the country in seconds, we can watch history unfold in real time, but technology doesn't automatically make people better. We can have the most advanced technology in human history and still carry the same prejudices that people carried generations ago. So my generation has a choice. We can use social media to divide people, or we can use it to educate people. We can use it to spread stereotypes, or we can use it to challenge those stereotypes. We can spend our time screaming at each other, or we can actually listen. I want my generation to choose better. And that brings me to something personal. I have a dream of running for president of the United States in 2048. That's a long way away. A lot can happen between now and then. I don't know exactly what the country will look like by that time. I don't know what issues will dominate American politics, and I don't know whether I'll ultimately be the person standing on the presidential debate stage. But I do know what kind of country I would want to fight for. I want an America where a kid can look at their future and not have their dreams limited by their race. I want an America where people can practice their faith without using that faith as an excuse to hate somebody else. I want an America where political disagreement doesn't automatically turn into hatred. I want an America where young people don't have to wait for somebody else to fix everything. And that's also why state elections matter to me. Sometimes we act like politics are only happening in Washington. It doesn't. Politics happens in Georgia. It happens in our state legislature. It happens in our country, in our counties. It happens in our schools and communities. State leaders make decisions that affect education, voting, transportation, public safety, economic development, and so many other parts of everyday life. So when we talk about racism and equality, we can't only talk about presidents. We have to talk about the people who actually make decisions in our states and communities. We have to ask, are people being treated fairly? Are laws being applied fairly? Are communities being heard? Are leaders being held accountable? And are we actually making progress? Those questions belong to a lot of us. If you're watching this and if you've experienced racism yourself, I want you to know something. You deserve to be treated with dignity and respect. You shouldn't have to prove you're worthy of that respect. You shouldn't have to change who you are to deserve basic human decency. And you shouldn't have to carry someone else's prejudice as though it somehow defines you. Your identity doesn't make you less valuable. Your background doesn't make you less valuable. Your race doesn't make you less valuable. You are a human being, and you deserve to be treated like one. And if you're watching this and you've never experienced racism firsthand, that's okay too. But maybe that's an opportunity to listen. You don't have to pretend you've experienced something you haven't. You don't have to immediately argue with someone describing their experience. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is, tell me what happened. Listen, learn, ask questions, and then decide what you can do differently. I don't want an America where we pretend race doesn't exist. I don't want an America where race is the only thing anybody sees. I want an America where our differences can exist without becoming reasons to hate one another. I want an America where equality isn't just a word for politicians during election season. I want it to be something people actually practice at school, at work, in our neighborhoods, online, in our churches, in our communities, and in our government. Micah chapter 6 verse 8 says, He hath sowed thee, O man, what is good? And then it gives 3 simple ideas. Do justly, love mercifully, walk humbly with thy God. I think those words are relevant to politics. Justice, mercy, humility. Imagine if politicians actually lived by those principles. Imagine if voters did too. Imagine if all of us asked ourselves before we posted something, before we judged somebody, before we attacked somebody. Am I being just? Am I showing mercy? Am I being humble enough to admit when I might be wrong? That could change a lot. So, no, I don't believe America is perfect. I don't believe racism has disappeared. I don't believe Democrats are perfect. I don't believe Republicans are all bad. I don't believe any politician is perfect. And I certainly don't believe I'm perfect. But I believe we can do better. I believe Georgia can do better. I believe America can do better. I believe my generation can do better. Because the future isn't always written. We're writing it right now. It's always being written by every person, no matter your color, no matter where you came from, no matter if you're an immigrant, no matter if you came from Mexico, no matter if you came from England, no matter if you came from Scandinavia. You are writing the history of this country. Every conversation matters. Every decision matters. Every vote matters. Every time we choose kindness over hatred, that matters. Every time we stand up when somebody is being treated unfairly, that matters. And every time we refuse to let racism become normal, that matters. My dream isn't simply to become president. My dream is bigger than one office. My dream is to live in a country where a child doesn't have to wonder whether their skin will determine how far they go. My dream is to live in a country where political leaders compete over ideas instead of people's identities. My dream is to live in a country where Christians can live by their faith, showing love rather than hatred. My dream is to live in a country where people who disagree politically can sit down together. My dream is to live in a country where the next generation looks back at ours and says, they didn't ignore the problems, they faced them, they learned from them, and they made things better. That's the America I want. That's the Georgia I want. And that's the future I want to help build, not because I'm better than anyone else, not because my political party has all the answers, but because I believe every generation has a responsibility to lead this country better than they found it. And I believe my generation is ready to begin. Thank you. I appreciate all of you who are watching this after it was streamed live and who watched it while it was live. I love all of you unconditionally. Jesus loves all of you unconditionally. You may not believe in him, but he believes in you. That's one promise I can make sure of. Even if you don't know him, even if you don't want to know him, try to get to know him. Jesus is the way, the truth, and the light. And I don't think I've ever experienced racism by another generation. I've experienced racism firsthand, jokingly. People joke about racism in schools, at parks, at events, every single day, like it's a game. I want you to leave here knowing one thing. Racism is not a joke. Racism has never been, never will be, or never has been a joke. Thank you for your time. And as I always say, together we rise. I love you, America.